Fellow St. Lucians, fellow citizens. In the course of the recent budget debate, certain allegations were made against my character, honesty, and integrity by Richard Frederick, the member for Castries Central, Guy Joseph, the member for Castries Southeast, and Rufus Bousquet, the member for Swazelle, which were not only completely false, but calculated to deceive and defame my good name when they know and knew otherwise. This pretended and feigned ignorance by these individuals, one a lawyer, of the constitutional role of the Minister of Finance will be exposed in this statement. Richard Frederick and Guy Joseph accused me of receiving so-called royalties in my personal capacity from Greenberg Petroleum, a company engaged in determining whether oil existed in the waters of St. Lucia. In support of his allegation, Richard Frederick quoted from a contract which made reference to payments to the Minister of Finance. In turn, Rufus Bousquet alleged that I had given away the seabed of St. Lucia for 58 years. These three men know full well that their allegations were and are false. As a result, these men, like the political cowards they are, sought and relied on the privileges of the House of Assembly to publish these deliberately fabricated lies to the world. All three, Richard Frederick, Guy Joseph, and Rufus Bousquet, chose to publish these defamatory allegations in the House of Assembly during the budget debate, after I had made my budget reply in the certain knowledge that I could not and would not be allowed to contest their baseless allegations, since I did not have the right to reply to them. All three knew full well that they could not be sued for anything which is said in Parliament because parliamentarians enjoy the defense of absolute privilege from cases brought against them for statements made in the House of Assembly. They dare not repeat them outside the precincts of the House. However, their supporters who repeat such allegations are not similarly protected. NTN, as they normally do, carried the debate for several days afterwards. This has led to the continued repetition of these false allegations against me. The argument that checks payable to the Minister of Finance could not conceivably be for my personal benefit is not only dishonest, but is symptomatic of a mindset of those individuals who deliberately and calculatingly abused Parliament and its privilege and hid behind that privilege to cowardly try to score cheap political mileage. Here are the basic facts. The Minister of Finance is an office established by the Constitution of St. Lucia and other statutes, independent of the person holding it. The Minister of Finance is an office, not a person. The law of the land creates the constitutional office of Minister of Finance and entrusts the Minister of Finance with responsibility for the revenue and expenditure of the country. And checks written in the name of the Minister of Finance are deposited in the public accounts under the control of the Accountant General and the Minister of Finance. These checks in the name of the Minister of Finance cannot be deposited in the personal accounts of any individual. This also holds true for checks written to the control of Inland Revenue, the control of Customs, the Postmaster General, and the Accountant General. Indeed, there is no commercial bank in St. Lucia or the Caribbean who would permit any minister to deposit any check in the official name of the minister in his or her personal and private account. The extent of Frederick's dishonesty and idiocy is further illustrated by this simple question. What would have happened if soon after the general election, which the SLP lost, a check made payable to the Minister of Finance was delivered to the incumbent Prime Minister, Sir John Compton, as Minister of Finance? What would Richard Frederick and Guy Joseph say? Would these men also accuse Sir John of corruption for receiving a check as and in the name of the Minister of Finance? I guess their behavior during Sir John's last days suggests that it's possible that they might have. The allegations made by Rufus Bousquet are not new. Similar allegations or statements were made by Richard Frederick in the budget debate of April 27, 2009. Mr. Earl Huntley, the former permanent secretary in the Ministry of External Affairs, replied at the time and explained the background in an article published in the Voice newspaper. His explanation exposed Richard Frederick's calculated effort to deceive the public and injure my reputation. Rufus Bousquet's allegations this time around are equally false, calculating, disingenuous, and cowardly. The basic and undisputable facts and considerations are as follows. As Mr. Huntley has explained, when the draft agreement to allow the preliminary exploration and the collection of data was received, the documents were sent to the Commonwealth Secretariat for review and advice, since St. Lucia had neither experience nor expertise in such matters. This can be confirmed with the former Attorney General, Petrus Compton. Greenberg Petroleum entered into an agreement with three governments of the OECS, namely the governments of Grenada, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and St. Lucia, to carry out preliminary exploration of their waters to determine whether there were petroleum reserves below the ocean floor. The government of Grenada was the first to engage Greenberg Petroleum. The governments of St. Vincent and St. Lucia followed suit. The three prime ministers at the time were persuaded to work with a single company because of the fact that the islands had shared marine boundaries. As in the other islands, Greenberg Petroleum was only granted a license to explore and determine if St. Lucia had deposits of oil at Greenberg's own expense. The government of St. Lucia did not have to spend 1 cent. After an initial 4-year period, the license was renewed for a further period of 2 years and thereafter for an additional year ending in 2007. If the license ended in March 2007 and renewals had to be obtained from the government in order for Greenberg Petroleum even to continue, how then can the United Workers' Party administration say that the seabed of St. Lucia was given away? In addition, the agreement provided that consideration would be given to an extended license to extract oil only if oil was discovered in St. Lucia. Further, this was subject to many safeguards. In time, certain disputes arose between the government of Grenada and Greenberg Petroleum, one of which included allegations of corruption made by Greenberg against a minister in the then Grenada government. The government of Grenada decided not to renew or extend the exploration license to Greenberg Petroleum. The company sued, argued the same ground of force majeure which it has raised in St. Lucia. In fact, Greenberg Petroleum lost to Grenada. The same principle applies to the interpretation of the agreement with St. Lucia. So it is disingenuous to say that St. Lucia is disadvantaged by any binding license for an extended period of years. The government of St. Vincent has continued its relationship with Greenberg Petroleum and sometime in 2007 renewed its license to continue exploration in the waters of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. If Greenberg was a con artist, why was his company's license renewed in St. Vincent? The only issue that the government of St. Lucia had to resolve was whether the license to determine if oil existed in our waters should be extended. The government retains all of its power to renew or not to renew as it deems fit. Greenberg Petroleum has argued that it should be extended because certain acts of God, normally described by lawyers as force majeure, prevented Greenberg Petroleum from completing the work which it had commenced. Greenberg Petroleum has not sued the government of St. Lucia, and in any event, if it did, it would not succeed because of the Grenada precedent. Indeed, because of the decision in the Grenada case, There never was any need to obtain a legal opinion from any American firm as done by the government. It was a colossal waste of money. The propaganda surrounding this issue raises yet again the question whether these ministers and their prime minister truly have the interest of our country at heart. In these exceedingly turbulent and difficult times, one would have thought that this government would have continued the search carried out by the former St. Lucia Labour Party government for alternative economic resources to sustain the future of our people. No one is suggesting that the agreement with Greenberg Petroleum should have continued. The present government can choose whoever it wants to do business with, provided that business is in the interest of St. Lucia. The United Workers' Party's motive for this coordinated attack on my integrity by the trio of ministers Rufus Bousquet, Guy Joseph, and Richard Frederick is simple. The UWP wants, at all cost, to score cowardly and cheap political points against me instead of concentrating on their dismal and abject failures in government. They create mountains of lies and seek, regardless of the truth, to paint Kenny D. Anthony with a broad brush of criminality under the guise of legitimate parliamentary debate whilst hiding behind the privileges afforded to members of the House. But this naked strategy of political desperation is doomed to fail and will fail. The people of this country are feeling the extraordinary pain and effects of the government's incompetence, dishonesty, and corruption. No amount of lies can wash away the collective pain we all suffer each and every day the United Workers' Party government desperately clings on to power. Since these false and malicious allegations by the three ministers, my reputation has been targeted by supporters of the regime who have seen it as part of their partisan campaign to repeat these allegations and lies. I have been falsely and maliciously accused of taking money from a foreign company. I have also been accused falsely and maliciously of selling out the waters of St. Lucia to the same company. These are exceedingly serious and false allegations calculated politically to injure my integrity, character, and honor in the year of a general election. Frankly, I have in the past ignored many other defamatory allegations directed against me, whether in the press or otherwise. However, this time it has gone too far. Only recently, two well-known activists of the United Workers' Party, Angel Brett and Ian Calderon, the latter a former councillor at the City Council, posted on Facebook the defamatory statements made in Parliament by the trio of ministers. They too openly accused me of taking money from Greenberg Petroleum and selling out the waters of St. Lucia. I invite them to remove the statements within the next 72 hours. Failing which, I shall instruct that legal proceedings commence against them without further delay. In that eventuality, the trio of Richard Frederick, Rufus Bousquet, and Guy Joseph will then have the opportunity to testify in a court of law on behalf of those who have chosen to repeat and promote their unscrupulous, false, and malicious allegations. I thank you for listening. May God continue to bless you, guide you, and protect our beautiful country.